evening and welcome to Legal Insights Live. Tonight we're diving into a fascinating yet complex area of criminal law, the defense of insanity. Is it a shield for the guilty or a necessary safeguard for those who cannot comprehend their action? Here to help us unravel this topic is our distinguished guest for today. Let us welcome Mr. Sharwish.
Hi everyone.
And following next is Ms. Shuweta.
Hello.
And next is Ms. ATHIRAH AYUNI.
Hi.
And last but not least is Ms. YOGES. So this is our distinguished guest for today. The insanity of defense, also referred to as the mental disease or a mental disorder, is a defense in a criminal case in which the defendant maintains that he did not commit the crime because he was in abnormally disturbed mental state at that time. The defendant must prove that they were suffering from a mental disease or defect that made it impossible for them to control or comprehend their actions, or made it impossible for them to recognize that their actions would be viewed as wrong by the community. So next, can you, Ms. Ayuni, give us a summary of the legal framework for the defense of insanity?
Thank you for the question, Ms. Roshini. Now I will explain on the legal framework of the defense of insanity, especially in Malaysia. So for your information, there are Section 84 of the Penal Code in Malaysia, which is the primary legal framework for the defense of insanity. It was derived from the McNaughton case in England, and in this case, Daniel McNaughton was accused of killing Edward Drummond, the private secretary to Sir Robert Peel, due to persecution fantasies. He mistook Drummond for Peel and received a life sentence in a mental hospital. The McNaughton rules require the defendant to prove three elements. They have a defect of reason, they do not know the nature of the act, and that it was legally wrong, and lastly, they have a disease of mind. But under Malaysia, to effectively raise a defense of insanity, the accused must meet the requirements outlined in Section 84. This includes being mentally ill at the time of the offence, being mentally impaired by the insanity, and also being incapable of knowing. The accused bears the burden of proof, which often involve in-depth medical assessment and expert testimony. The prosecution duty is then to refute this assertion. To add on, Section 84 of the Malaysian Penal Code, which is based on the Indian Penal Code 1816, integrates Malaysian concepts into Malaysian law. This provides broader scope and qualifies the concepts, modifying them to fit local legal procedures. Malaysian insanity defense are governed under Section 84, with the McNaughton rules acting as a guide for interpretation. There are several differences, such as Section 84 covers mental disease that impact cognition, including incapacity that is not based on illness, whereas the McNaughton standards are restricted to cases of mental illness or cognitive incapacity. While Malaysian courts interpret and implement Section 84 as the governing law, in which case law may be persuasive but not legally binding.
Of course, the insanity defense is based on principles that a person cannot understand the nature of their action or recognize them as wrongdoing to a mental disorder shouldn't be held criminally accountable. In Malaysia, this is rooted in the Section 84 of the Penal Code and follows the McNaughton's rules, which emphasizes on our cognitive inability to distinguish right from wrong. It's fascinating, but what does this look like in practice? Have there been any related cases?
Oh yeah, there was a case back then in 2018, which is the case of public prosecutor against Saliful Fizwat Saadun case. It was found that the defendant was diagnosed with a bipolar disorder, insane and unaware of their wrongdoing. A psychiatric assessment confirmed his mental instability, and evidence suggested that the murder was carried out under his delusions. Fizwat was then acquitted under Section 84 on the grounds of mental disorder for murdering his wife. We have the legal
From what I understand, it seems that the defense of insanity can bring great help to defendant. Thus, let's discuss further on the strength of insanity defense. Let's get a view from Mr. Sharwish. Mr. Sharwish, why do you think this provision is important?
I'll be explaining the strengths of the legal provision. First will be well-established legal framework. Section 84 of the Penal Code ensures justice by recognizing that individuals with severe mental illness may lack the capacity to understand their actions or distinguish between right and wrong. For instance, a person in a psychotic state may commit an act believing they are responding to an imaginary threat. This provision prevents the punishment of those acting without intent or malice while requiring strong evidence of mental impairment to prevent misuse. Second will be well-supported and efficient practice. The McNaughton rules established in R. McNaughton provide a structured approach to insanity defense with two key tests. First will be cognitive understanding, which determines if the accused comprehend their actions, such as in cases where delusional distorts reality. Second will be moral understanding, assess if the accused could distinguish right from wrong, even if they understand their actions. These rules protects the court system from baseless claim while ensuring fairness for those generally unable to comprehend their actions thought they are critical for not considering emotional or impulsive behavior. There will be reliance on expert opinion. Psychiatric evaluations bring scientific rigor to insanity defense. Experts access mental health using tools like the DSM-5 and focus on diagnosis quotient and credibility. They determine whether the accused's mental illness directly impaired their understanding or moral judgment and provide unbiased evidence to ensure fair applications of the defense. Finally, emphasize on rehabilitation. Modern system prioritize treatment over punishment. Mentally ill offenders deemed not guilty by reason of insanity are sent to mental health facilities for therapy, medication, and skill building. Programs like cognitive behavioral therapy help them manage their condition and prepare for integration into society, reducing reoffending and fostering a human justice system. This approach addresses root causes, improving public safety, and offering a balanced path to justice. Thank you.
It seems to be a very well-established legal framework. But Mr. Shawish, do you think defense on insanity always works? I believe there might be little limitations to the defense of insanity.
Yes, there are actually a certain amount of limitation to this provision. Firstly, inconsistency in legal test and definition. The defense of insanity suffers from significant inconsistency in legal test and definition across jurisdictions. For example, Malaysia applies the McDonald rule, which requires a defect of reason from disease of the mind, but other places uses varying standards like the irresistible impulse test or the Durham rule and so on. Additionally, the term insanity is undefined in the Malaysian Penal Code, with only vague references to unsoundness of mind. This vagueness complicates judicial decision, creating legal uncertainty about whether a defendant is truly insane or not. Secondly, the inadequacy of confinement. Public perception says that this defense is a loophole for criminals to evade justice, as those acquitted are typically sent to the mental hospitals rather than prisons. However, the system lacks sufficient mechanism to ensure adequate detention or rehabilitation. For instance, individuals diagnosed with temporary insanity might be confined for a shorter duration, increasing the risk of recidivism. Similarly, those with permanent mental conditions may be released early due to inadequate oversight, posing risk to society. Thirdly, society's dilemma regarding psychiatric evaluation. Psychiatric evaluation play a key role in determining insanity, but they often lead to public skepticism. Mental health experts can provide conflicting opinions, with defense-appointed psychiatrists having bias. For instance, in a Kolkata case, a man preserved his deceased mother's body for 3 years to collect her pension, showing premeditation and planning. Despite this, a defense psychiatrist diagnosis of psychosis enabled an insanity plea. This case sparked debates about the reliability and fairness of psychiatric assessments in legal proceedings. Fourthly, the limitation of this legal provision is that people can fake insanity. The insanity defense is susceptible to abuse, with accused individuals feigning mental illness to avoid legal consequences. Media portrayals, such as in Primal Fear, amplify public cynicism by showing characters faking psychosis successfully. High-profile cases, like those involving serial killers, further erode trust in defense. The difficulty in definitively assessing past mental state exacerbates this issue, leading to concerns that the defense undermines justice by letting some offenders escape different judgment.
I completely agree with you, Ms. Shuweta. Inconsistencies in definitions and evaluation are major issues. For instance, the term insanity isn't clearly defined in a penal code. It leads to varying interpretations. This can confuse juries and erode public trust. There are also concerns about defendants faking their insanity. What's your view on this?
Let's look at the case of PP vs. Limpopo, which highlights key issues in the insanity defense. The accused, charged with murdering his sister, who had a history of schizophrenia but had discontinued treatment since 1998. Despite a psychiatrist confirming his competency to stand trial, the judge acquitted him based solely on medical evidence, concluding that he was of unsound mind at the time of the offense and unaware of his actions. He was sent to a medical institution for treatment. However, the prosecution appealed, and the appellate court ruled that the judge had acted prematurely by not allowing the defense to present its case. The trial was ordered to continue, emphasizing the need for procedural fairness. This case demonstrates the distinction between medical and legal insanity. While medical insanity reflects mental illness, legal insanity under Section 84 of the Penal Code requires proof of severe cognitive impairment that prevents understanding of one's action or their wrongfulness. The accused bear the burden of proving this on a balance of probabilities, ensuring that only genuine cases qualify for the defense. In summary, PP vs. Limpopo underscores the importance of balancing medical evidence with due legal process. Back to you, Ms. Roshini.
That was a very thorough explanation, Ms. Yogesh. The analysis on the case was very interesting. The case studies examined underscore the importance of a thorough and balanced evaluation process to differentiate between legal and medical insanity and avoids premature or erroneous judgments. While the defense of insanity serves a critical legal safeguard, it requires rigorous application, judicial oversight, and continued refinement. This to ensure fairness to both the accused and the society, maintaining the integrity of the criminal justice system. I think today's discussion is a very heated and interesting one. To conclude our discussion today, let's summarize on the defense of insanity. The defense of insanity, as provided under Section 84 of the Malaysian Penal Code, plays a crucial role in safeguarding individuals who lack the mental capacity to understand the nature or wrongfulness of their actions from unjust criminal liability. Grounded in the principles established in the M. Nathan's Rule, this defense balances legal standards and medical expertise to ensure justice is upheld while emphasizing rehabilitation over punishment. However, the frame is not without its limitation.